Kara Zor-El arrives in Metropolis in this week's My Adventures with Superman episode titled Most Eligible Superman. Before we get to the Kara plot though, Clark and Lois, who have been kind of going through it the last couple of episodes thanks to them kind of not being on each other's level and kind of missing out on each other's big important things just because of work and Supermaning, are tasked with a new assignment from Perry: cover Metropolis's most eligible bachelor and bachelorette, a task usually reserved for Cat Grant. Now obviously this is a bit of a plot device to bring these two characters together after having them apart for so long and sort through some of the baggage they now have, and I think it's a great little plot to have with them, especially because it's a very classic, Clark's got to be there, Superman's got to be there as well, so we get some sort of comedic hijinks where one has to cover for the other sort of thing. Lois and Clark find out that Superman has been named Metropolis's most eligible bachelor and needs to be on the show, something Clark has no interest in covering until he actually learns that it's all for a good cause, as proceeds raised will go to a children's hospital. Kat ends up tagging along with Lois as well, hinting that she actually knows Superman's big secret and she's going to let Lois in on it, and Lois is of course paranoid that she knows that Clark is Superman, or that her and Superman are dating as well. Jimmy Meemaw is the first person that Kara, who has arrived in Metropolis, runs into, saving her from almost being hit by a truck. Kara's debut in the show is a great one. She's a fish out of water, much like you usually get with Clark early on. Some of the stuff we got in the first season did that very well, and here she just doesn't understand how things on Earth work, being that she was raised mostly, out in space, out in the cosmos. She's also dressed exactly like Android 18 from Dragon Ball Z, which is a very nice homage and a great look for the character as well. Kara makes it known to Jimmy that she is looking for her cousin, who she says is a very strong warrior, and Jimmy agrees to help find him, only he's also kind of dodging Clark at the moment thanks to the events of the last episode. The way the show shows Jimmy's guilt and plays with it is real. It's something that you would see in real life, and I like that that's how the show has chosen to do these characters, because it could have just made them all, cartoony, anime characters who, it's just a fun show. We don't do all that sort of serious stuff, but I like that the show often breaks into some serious stuff. We saw last week's episode with Lois and her father Sam, and it got quite real in that episode too, and I like that they're showing it here with Jimmy, where he knows he did wrong and wants to make up to his friend, but he doesn't know how to properly word his apology or get his feelings out in the open, and it clearly frustrates him. I also like that there's an air of the fact that with Kara there now, this is kind of like a distraction for him, and it's almost like he's using Kara as sort of a way to be like, okay, maybe if I help this woman, Clark will see that and kind of forgive me for what I did. It's also teaming Jimmy and Kara up, which doesn't happen all that often in the comics, but it's really great when it does. So Jimmy helps her out looking through Metropolis, and along the way showing her a little bit about Earth, including things like, parks, flowers, butterflies, and most importantly, mint choc chip ice cream sundaes. Clark and Lois meanwhile attend the contest, and Kat begins planting some doubtful seeds in Lois's mind about Superman, hinting that Superman would be dating someone rich and powerful and attractive, someone who might be on this contest, might be one of the other bachelor or bachelorettes, and he would never be seen with some sort of normie like Lois or her. And Lois begins to kind of buy into maybe that she isn't good enough for Superman, and that's why they've been so far apart, because she can't really be part of his life because he's off Supermaning. We've seen stuff like this in the comics a fair few times over the decades, and it's something the show definitely needed to do to strengthen Lois and Clark's relationship, especially since they got to the relationship so quickly in the show, and separating them before a big tragedy here makes for some compelling story for both Lois and Clark. They both need to get back to each other and kind of pick up where they left off, and it will only strengthen their relationship. The contest gets underway, and it's a fantastic lineup of deep cut DC characters. We have Hank Henshaw, who we saw in the last couple of episodes and is kind of becoming a recurring threat for Superman, since he doesn't like Superman as an alien, always just following on from Lex's talk about Earth is for for Earthlings. We have Silver St. Cloud, who is a Batman character, or I should say a Bruce Wayne character, as Bruce Wayne is famously known for dating her. Chandi Gupta, who becomes, I believe, the hero Maya in some continuities. She's also, a very long-standing DC character. And Bryna Brilliant, who is probably the most kind of redesigned of them all. As in the comics, Bryna is a character called the Blue Snowman, and they are kind of like a weird character. We haven't really seen much of them in more modern comics, but they're a very old school character, and I very much like the redesign they have here and would like to see a lot more of these characters make an appearance throughout the show. Superman soon joins the contest and kind of turns up the charm on the show, and it causes Lois to get even further jealous that he's doing this, or jealous that he's getting the affections of these other contest members. And it's made even worse when Silver St. Cloud begins flirting with Superman a little bit and wants to work with him with her hospital and everything, and Superman of course wants to do that because it's the right thing to do, and Lois can't really see that. It's really great drama stuff. The contest closes, and of course Superman is the winner since he's the only one there anyone is there to see, and Lois doesn't take it well, and her and Clark get into it a little bit, and Lois begins to kind of break up with Clark. But before she can properly do it, Jimmy and Kara turn up, and the show takes quite a turn as Kara is disgusted at Earth and how weak it seems, angered that she even sees her cousin partaking in all of these silly games instead of, being this big warrior that she thought he was. Kara confronts Clark, and she is revealed to have been the armored Kryptonian we've been seeing destroying worlds over the course of the first season and the last couple of episodes here. Kara is trying to bring back the Kryptonian Empire. She still thinks it's around, and Clark has to try and tell her and trying to convince her that it's not, and that he's kind of the last one left alive. The show goes all out on their fight, spilling out into the streets of Metropolis, where Clark almost momentarily gets Kara to stop the fight after she sees the people and sees how scared she's made them. And we even get a new superpower from Clark as his ice breath kicks in, only this time around it's not really like a sort of gust of wind that he blows out, it's like a literal ice laser beam, which is really cool. And again, the show has done really great things with reimagining Superman's powers, or giving him very anime inspired powers, or changing them so they look a little bit more anime inspired, and I really love that. It makes it feel so fresh and new, and it's just something so familiar as like an ice breath, but it looks so different and so cool. As the fight continues, we learn that Kara is there on the orders of someone named Primus, who is controlling her via the armor and a little bangle she wears on her hand. He calls Kara her Scion, and seeing Superman's powers, Primus wants his Scion to bring Superman to him. Kara ends up beating Superman, knocking him out and sealing him in a crystal prison, leaving Earth to go and see Primus with Superman. In the closing moments of the show, we also learn that Primus is revealed to be Kara's father. The character of Primus, I think, is going to be revealed to be combination of different characters, since the moment we hear his voice, you get really big Brainiac vibes. It's got that very Brainiac voice, and the character doesn't feel like Zor-El. It feels a bit like the cyborg Superman Zor-El, but I think it's probably going to be revealed that maybe Brainiac found Kara when she was a baby, when she was sent away from Krypton, because we did see that she got sent away as a baby, not as a teenager like she usually is. So maybe Brainiac found her, and it's sort of like an inverse of Superman's upbringing with the Kents, where she was brought up by Brainiac to become sort of this warrior who's just decimating all of this galaxy at the behest of Brainiac. And even the design we've seen of Primus, which we have seen before, is very Brainiac-like, with a very 3 energy orb motif that is common with Brainiac. The show has reimagined several key characters in the Superman mythos so far, and I'm really excited to see what they do with Kara and this Primus character, since it's always so different, yet it still respects the base origins of these characters, and the little revisionings they do makes it a bit more exciting and a bit more different. You never know what's going to happen with these characters, and that's, I think, is like the big draw for me. You never know who these characters are exactly going to be, whether they're going to be a combination of characters or just a complete re-envisioning. My Adventures with Superman Season 2 Episode 5 was another damn good episode. The show is doing so much good stuff with just the character developments and how they're going going about balancing all of these plots and then bringing them together in its third act. It's a formula that works just so well, and I love that the show does it every week and does it in a really cool way. We finally have Supergirl in the show, and she's completely different to what I thought she was going to be like. I'm very excited to see a little bit more about her, especially now that the show looks like it might be heading off-world, being that Superman has been taken and Lois and Jimmy and all of these other people have to probably go after him. So I'm very excited to see this, environmental shift the show is about to go through in the back half of its season. I'm going to give this episode of My Adventures with Superman a 10 out of 10.